Welcome back to another episode of the Heatio Home Energy Show, where today we're joined by Glenn Brewer, the Heat Director for AES, and we're going to be talking about some of the negativity going on in the industry around the transition to renewable heating systems, specifically looking at the recent Panorama documentary around heat pump systems. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
So yeah, I'm sure certainly people in our industry, but I would imagine a much wider consumer base saw the Panorama documentary. Not particularly complimentary for heat pump systems.
I don't think so. I don't think for any renewable systems really. The negativity around that program, I just got to believe. You know, it's sort of it was future-proofing the country and advertised it was going to future-proof the UK, but the negativity from every angle on that, it just seems
it does seem a little bit ridiculous, and there does I don't want to be too zeitgeist about it, but there does feel like there's an agenda behind some of this stuff, because some of the figures that were chucked around in the episode, £18,000 for a heat pump system. Yeah. I mean, I was watching that, and there was 6 guys working on that customer's house. He was having a complete change to his heating system. We installed a heat pump, and this is not uncommon, and you've done a lot more heat pump systems than me. We installed one last week where the customer's contribution towards it was £3,500. That was heat pump, hot water cylinder, and selected radiator upgrades due to the age of the property.
But again, though, I see that myself, and the first thing I commented on was the £18,000. The number of heat pump quotes we send out, the only time they've ever gone above £18,000 is for big developments, when we're doing a number of them on a big site moving forward, or it's for the ones where we're throwing in a whole new system with underfloor heating, with a number of radiators, and it's a big bill, you know. And that's other than that, our average, you're looking at £12,000 to £14,000. So where that £18,000 come from, and the fact that the comment that all the radiators need to be updated. Again, I couldn't understand that. Sort of.
Well, let's get some clarity on that though, because even that 12 to 14,000, anybody looking at that goes, Jesus, it doesn't matter whether it's 18 grand or 12 to 14 grand. That's still going to be a great big bloody hit. If somebody's thinking, and certainly a lot more than having a boiler replaced. So it's just, you can set the record straight on what that means. If let's say somebody comes in and they're taking a £12,000 quote to have a heat pump installed straight away, and there's a grant in place for £5,000 that for anybody watching, because I get these on a daily basis, people ringing me up saying, am I eligible for the grant? I'm on pension credit, so am I eligible for the grant? I'm on income support. For the clarity of every viewer watching this, the criteria is you own your home. Yeah. It's not means tested. It's not based on benefits. If you own your home, there's a very, very, very high probability that you're going to get £5,000 towards that installation from the government, no questions asked.
Yeah. I
think so that 12,000 or even 10 to 12,000, that's going to drop by £5,000 straight away.
Straight away.
So would you say the average amount of money that a customer of yours has to pay towards that installation is closer to 6? Maybe 8? Yeah,
100%. We've done for me. We not follow up on that. What you said about the £5,000 grant. There's also 0% VAT at the moment on any green product. So customers are saving the VAT when purchasing a heat pump. So when you take that chunk of money out of it as well, it's an even bigger saving. We've done a heat pump quote for a customer of ours down in Maidstone in Kent, and the customer had a company in to quote him for a boiler. And that was a boiler swap and some radiator upgrades, and that came in at £6,500. We done a heat pump, fitted a heat pump, upgraded the radiators we need to upgrade. We recycled the radiator from upstairs to the front room, sort of mini office downstairs, because that radiator was the correct size. So we recycled that, obviously flushed the system through and got rid of the debris and the sludge from that. Left him 2 flow returns for his underfloor heating that he's going to do next year. And because of the grant and the 0% VAT, that system cost him £7,000.
And how much would you be looking at if that person just wanted a straight up boiler swap?
So it's £6,500 for the boiler, or £7,000 for a heat pump. So straight away, I'm having a heat pump then, because that's the to going green, the renewable technology. And one of the things he said to us as well is, well, listen, if I'm paying £6,000 now, that boiler lifetime, I'm looking at 10 years. In 10 years' time, I've got to pay £6,000 again for another natural gas boiler. That's another £12,000. So like when you're looking at it in the grand scheme of things, your heat pump's averaging 15, 20 years. He's paying it out now, and then as long as it's looked after and maintained, which we'll do, he's money in pocket.
And we're not, you know, to give a balanced argument around this, I think it's fair to say, you know, the Panorama documentary was, you know, to go out there saying, you know, the system cost £18,000 and to pick that installation as a prime example of a typical install was obviously ridiculous. There is then you've got the flip side to that, whereas I'm sure there's plenty of people that will be watching this that would talk about if they have a combi boiler, you know, just a gas boiler on the wall, and they're talking about a straight swap, you're probably closer to 2.5 to 3. Yeah. So we're not the technology is not aimed at that market yet, you know, in terms of from a cost perspective, which is fine. And as an industry, we can recognise that, but we're working towards it with improvements in technology. But we're definitely not sat there only dealing with mansions and hugely wealthy individuals.
Far from it. Like I say, I read an article on LinkedIn and then in the Telegraph a few weeks ago and commented it, rightly so, from, I won't name names, but the article was heat pumps are only for the privileged. And you sit there and you read it. And when you read it, I think like, there's no one more privileged than anyone else, you know. We're fitting these in small little 2-bedroom houses in the middle of London to big £2 million houses in Kent, Surrey, Sussex and Cheshire. Yeah. You know,
we did one last week. It was a tiny little kind of 2.5 bed end terrace. You know, the combi boiler had died. You know, they already had solar. Was recognising the fact that they were exporting a lot of energy, and the boiler needed replacing. So and you know, logically they were generating all this renewable electricity on the roof. They can see so much of it going off onto the grid, even with energy storage. The logical next step for them was to put a heat pump in. Yeah, capital cost for them, the investment they had to make was probably another £2,000 more than if they'd have put the boiler swap. But they've got so much more for that system as well. Okay, they had to have the money to do it, but for that extra £2,000, they've now got, they can now generate more from or use more of the solar than they were before. They're able to store hot water, which they never were able to do before. So there is that is typical now.
But this is what people are seeing though, isn't it? The negativity around this industry. They're reading those articles, they're getting that paper, they're doing their daily commute, they're on the train to work and they're reading that. Well, I was going to go for a heat pump, but I'm reading this and it isn't correct. Like, surely the people at this level of these industries should be looking at this and realising at present we need a blended approach. You know, let's be honest, and we're being very honest here, the heat pump isn't suitable for every property at the moment, right? But there's ways around that with electrifying boilers. You can have an electric boiler in there for your hot water if need be. In flats in London, you could be fitting those. In flats in Manchester, Liverpool, anywhere.
Because I think that's the thing. There was a study that went out, wasn't it, that said essentially a heat pump is suitable for every home. What they're talking about in that is that can a heat pump heat any home? And it's yeah. It can. Is it suitable and practical and the right advice to be given a customer that lives in a flat to be fitting a heat pump? And you should say no. You know, there's other ways around it and making that. And it's not right now that everybody should be jumping on the heat pump bandwagon and having them put in. But I think the biased opinion that seems to come from media around renewable heat technologies and the options that are available to people. We always seem to go down this route of the fact that they are so expensive and the average person couldn't even dream of affording these, and you must have a Tesla parked on the drive and, you know, 100 kilowatts of solar on your roof. It's ridiculous when you think actually, you know, the average person can make that choice to have a heat pump fitted in the home at a similar cost. And I think the other point that was absolutely brushed over in that documentary was the finance aspect of things. The green finance sector is looking at renewable heat, looking at solar. We saw the rent-a-roof type schemes that were around, where people were essentially having free solar because of the government incentives there. We're involved in a program right now with E.ON and Energy Systems Catapult. We're developing an energy as a service proposition where essentially the capital cost goes completely for the customer. You can walk into somebody's house and have solar fitted on the roof, battery storage, a heat pump, completely electrify that house, no upfront cost to the customer, and they pay a service fee over a 20-year period, which essentially means that they are becoming their own energy supplier. They're basically buying the electricity that's generated on their own roof and channel that in, and that fee that they pay will be lower than the energy bill, than the savings that they make. So there's a direct benefit. They get energy security, and I can't imagine in a documentary like that where it's talking about the future of green heat and renewables in the UK and all the different options. And I think the majority of that show was talking about hydrogen. At no point did they talk about the green finance sector that's getting set up to support all this.
I totally agree. And there are other avenues out there that you can go and get some of this funded as well. There's other companies out there now looking to do that with customers and offering ways to fund your renewable technologies. But listen, I'm an ex-gas man, so I've come from the gas industry, so I've made the transition over, and I'm fully aware of what's gone on in the gas industry before. And it's my apprenticeship where I come from. But I also understand that the way forward is working together to get where we need to be for net zero. Mm-hmm. You know, at the moment, natural gas is here, but heat pumps are on the rise. I think last year was the first year that we had, or the highest year that heat pumps have been installed. The peak of heat pumps was at an all-time high sort of last year. And so you can see the change now in the country. The country is now understanding what they need to do, and people are understanding, well, that is a benefit, you know? Like when you say, can they be installed in every property? Yeah, they can. You have to, like what we do, we design that property for that customer. You know, as I said, we recycle radiators. So if you don't need it upstairs and you can go downstairs, we'll do that to save you money. That design is done by sort of one of our surveyors, or a number of our surveyors, but it comes back in and designed internally. We speak with that customer to make sure that they're getting the best out of that heating system. So if a radiator is going on the wall, we've got to update it to say a double panel radiator, sometimes even a triple. We'll update that, but we'll fit that where there's no obstacle in front of it, so you're getting a full benefit of that in that room. If they want underfloor heating, we'll provide that and we'll give a quote for that. And again, that works better with your heat pump, so the customers are getting a full benefit of their sort of renewable system. Going back and touching on the hydrogen one, listen, I think hydrogen, if it comes in, is fantastic, but they've got to get it out of the bottles, because when you look at it on there, it was all brought in on lorries and on the back of a lorry and put in bottles outside and pumped into a property. And you think, come on, like, listen.
Well, there's the mix, the green energy mix is going to come in all different shapes and sizes, isn't it? We've got district heating systems that are going in around the country as well. So there's some weird and wonderful ways in which I
think even that when you look at the new developments as well, though, and you look at some of the, I won't name any, but you look at the big development companies now that are building large number of houses across the UK. A number of those are only fitting heat pumps in the properties. You know, and I know people are now going to jump on this and say, oh yeah, that's because it's new and that's insulated to the hilt and it's a new property and it suits it. Listen, you can have a heat pump in a, listen, we've just done one in a 1920s property in the middle of London. Everyone says heat pumps don't work in London, don't work in older houses, don't work in old yellow brick red stock houses. Well, no, they do.
Yeah.
You know?
There was I seen an article come out from I think it was for the Sustainable Technology Centre, or the Centre for Sustainable Technology, I think. And I swear to God, I was reading it and I was just assuming this was published the best part of 5 years ago, because it was, you know, the same old out of date rhetoric that we hear, that in order to have a heat pump, you must have a well insulated home. No, to have any heating system, you should be thinking about improving the insulation for your home. It doesn't matter whether you've got a boiler, electric heating, or a heat pump. You should consider that. But a heat pump works in a home that is even poorly insulated. It just can cost more to run. No different to the fact that your boiler in a poorly insulated home costs more to run. It's
let's be honest. This is I think one of the skill shortages we spoke about previously, where a number of heating engineers will walk into a property and say, "Oh yeah, you need a 1500 rad there for a 30 kilowatt boiler on the wall there. Job's a good one." Mm-hmm. Now you have to go in there and you have to measure room for room. You have to go back to how heating was done originally and do your measurements and do your heat loss calculations and design that system how a heating system should have been designed. And let's be honest, if they was designed the correct way back in the past,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have all these problems now with undersized radiators. We wouldn't have this problem now with sort of heat loss, or heat being lost through the properties, you know. And
No.
again, David Cameron was the one that sort of got done away with the green levy and said it was no good. Well, let's be honest, that insulation that they'd done at the time actually improved some of the homes that we're installing heat pumps in now.
Yeah.
It's beyond me. Some of the stuff that I'm reading and seeing on social media, LinkedIn, the newspapers, everything. It's just negativity. Every article is negative, goes against what we're trying to do.
But it's a big voice, you know.
Sure.
Panorama doing that, primetime TV, you know, a show that obviously has a lot of prestige. It's reckoned if they're going out and people are seeing that. And yeah, okay, we're in the renewable heat industry, so but I think it's absolutely right to go out there and kind of highlight the misinformation that is being portrayed in these documentaries.
I think you just said there, we're in the renewable industry, right? We're not preaching in the same way that some of the fossil fuel industries are to keep people going that way. You know, like we're in there and we're promoting it in the right way to get people to make the switch. You know, we're not preaching stick with your gas boiler, stick with gas. You know, we're doing it. Okay, yeah, well, have this, it works. We're not saying you've got to have it. It's their choice. Let's be honest, it's their choice. Yeah. We're doing it in a way and designing it in a way to make them work. We work with the customer. We build a relationship up. We open up. Okay, so we'll do this, and this. We'll do A, B, and C. Does that suit? Yes. Right. So that's a relationship. So the customer's fully aware of everything we're doing. They're fully aware of the journey they're going through. That again is a positive for us. You know, I've had customers ring me up over this documentary of Panorama, who we've done installed heat pumps in, and the first thing they said, did you see that program?
Yeah,
I see it. Yeah, I can't believe they said that. I've had mine in a year. I've had no problems with it. Like my house is nowhere near as insulated as it should be, but I'm warm through the winter.
But they're so the people that are that voice is so much smaller in comparison to the noise that's getting created around what I can only believe is people that have an agenda to stimulate and maintain the status quo around fossil fuels. You know, this new industry that's getting created. If you just then not looking at the zeitgeist part of all this and whether this is all a big conspiracy, but the size and the scale of A, the fossil fuel industry, and B, the boiler manufacturers in the UK. The question is why would the boiler manufacturers be pushing back against this? But they're not Samsung, they're not Hitachi, they're not Panasonic, they're not Daikin.
But on the other side of that though as well, if you think about the installer show this year at the NEC, every boiler manufacturer was there, and every boiler manufacturer had a heat pump on the stand.
But is this a crucial part of it? Because yeah, you know, and as a brand and as a business, they do have to have that on the front of it. But how many of them are right now? I know there's a few of them that are starting to make the transition, but how many of them right now are manufacturing heat pumps under their own name, or are they branding other people's?
No, a number of them are under their own name.
Their badge on it, but are they physically manufacturing in their own facilities?
Yeah. There's two manufacturers I can think of that are doing that. That's just off the top of my head. But they are going down that route, and we do the installer show year upon year, and last year the negativity around heat pumps at last year's installer show was unbelievable, and this year.
Positive.
It was in a year the changes. It was phenomenal.
But that's that is the installer show, isn't it? It's working with installers. But when you think of the components that are inside a heat pump, the crucial parts to make that work, they are very different to the components that were previously sat inside a boiler.
Yeah.
So when you look at when you look at what's inside a heat pump, you're talking about essentially a air conditioning system, for want of a better word. So when you look at the manufacturers that are making compressors and those ancillary components at mass scale, you know, worldwide, the big names that jump out were obviously the likes of Samsung, Midea, Daikin, Mitsubishi, names that you don't associate directly to the heating market.
Yeah.
So those manufacturers that are sat there right now in the boiler industry need things to slow down. Because if all of a sudden the floodgates opened and everything started coming through, they're going to lose huge market share when it comes to that stuff, because they will have their own technology, but you can guarantee Worcester Bosch, Ideal, they will not be making the same margin that they make on a heat pump sale as they would make on a boiler sale right now.
But on the other side of that as well, like when you put another flip of it, like we speak regular to our supplier, and funny enough, I actually spoke to her on the way up here today, and throughout this summer, there's sort of 3 companies she's working with that are gone into renewables and doing heat pumps, and we're the 3 biggest spends through the summer. You know, the people that are doing the boiler swaps. Okay, I get it's because of the summer and people sort of, it will pick up in the winter, but throughout this summer, we're the 3 companies that are doing renewables are the ones that have been spending the money through the summer. Yeah. And that was through the winter as well. It isn't just because it's the summer and we're doing it now. It's been throughout this year. But she was on like you're one of my biggest spends, and the other 2 companies are the same.
But what are you? You're going in. You're taking out a boiler, and a fossil fuel boiler. Going to be Worcester Bosch. Yeah, something along those lines, isn't that you're going to be ripping off the wall? Yeah. What are you fitting in place, typically?
So we're fitting, again, goes down to heat loss calculation, so we're fitting in a sizable air source heat pump for that property.
Manufacturer-wise.
Oh, manufacturer-wise. Yeah. We fit a number of manufacturers, really, just because of availability for us. We don't want to let the customer down and give the customer a long lead time. So we're fitting Midea, sort of, he's probably one of our preferred. Core Energy, and those that don't know, they're sort of a UK-based company in Grimsby, and that's a lovely piece of kit. It's very, my installers love working with that just for the simplicity of it. So Midea, Core Energy, Samsung, done some Daikins, Mitsubishis.
But you look at that, just to focus in on that point around the fact that we've got.
LG as well. LG is a big one for us as well. But
you talk one of the biggest installers in the UK in the heat pump world, and I know if we look across, the likes of Eon do a lot of do a huge amount with Daikin. They do work with Valent as well, which is in the boiler, but a lot with Daikin. I think Octopus with Daikin is doing a lot with Daikin as well.
Yeah, I think they've got their own stuff in there as well.
They've got one.
Red, don't they?
Yeah, don't think that's necessarily in the. They're not.
We've done the Grant as well. Sort of, I know Grant. We've installed Grant and worked with Grant as well. So we work with a number of them.
There's got to be something in there that tells me that there's this negativity, this negative press around heat pump installations has got to be getting fueled by somebody somewhere in the fossil fuel world, because it's
like an old footballer's kiss and tell, though, isn't it? You know, you wake up on a Sunday morning and there'll be a footballer in the back there, kiss and tell. I see so-and-so in a bar, ended up in a hotel room. And it's the same sort of story, isn't it? Someone's fed them that story to print.
Yeah. And
we wake up in the morning, open a page, heat pumps, don't work.
But who picks that house then? That house that I remember seeing in the documentary, the lady got out of the car and she was like, "Oh God, there's a lot of work going on here." And there's people everywhere. There's radiators outside. There's pallets of equipment. That, if you're the average customer who goes, no, I just want a boiler replacing, and you're looking at this, I just think, Jesus Christ. Whereas we did an installation last week where we were on site on the Monday, we were out of the house by the Wednesday. Done. The majority of the work went on outside the house, handful of radiator upgrades, no hassle for the customer. The hot water was on and off, was disconnected in the morning, and then it was back on by the afternoon.
Yeah, that's what same as us. That's how we do things.
So it can be that simple, can't it? And I think
there are bigger ones out there. I'm not going to say everything's done in 3 days because let's be honest, the truth of the matter is some are, some aren't. Yeah. But it isn't as bad as people are saying.
But that's no different.
The install isn't as big as what people are making out. Not only are we facing the negative press from sort of BBC Panorama and other various tabloids, we're also facing it for the poor engineers that are out there that are doing it unqualified under the umbrella scheme.
Yeah.
They jump on it. Oh yeah, I can do a heat pump. It's only a heat source. I'll just throw it in, and then we go there and have to put it right because one of them, they left like an open vented cylinder in an airing cupboard and wondered why the heat pump ain't working. How? Oh, just threw a heat pump in. Can't get hold of this engineer no more. His phone's changed. Phone's gone dead. We're there then putting it right, and it's costing the customer money. And this is the problem that we're facing in this industry. There's too many people thinking they can jump on it and do it under someone's scheme. Someone signs that off somewhere. and then we're the ones who are the MCS accredited company that have to go out there, put it right, and probably cost the customer a little bit more money, because that, I don't want to say cowboy because that's a horrible word, but the person that isn't qualified and thinks I can just throw it in. Like,
but the thing is, the reality is that's the case in boilers, in joinery, and everything. It's not specific to MCS, is it?
No,
it's not specific to heat pumps. Specifically, if you're looking at this situation where you've got the negativity around heat pumps, negative press around heat pumps, they cost so much, your house is going to be destroyed. You've got to be insulated to the hilt to make them work. The reality is that isn't the case. We know you can go in, you can do a quality installation, it can be affordable. We're not sitting here saying that there is this is going to be competing with the combi boiler swap market anytime soon. But you need to find a good installer like AES who's willing to come in, do the thing properly, do it do it for a fair rate as well. Maximize the opportunity with the grant that's available at the moment, and that will continue to be available for a few years. And we'll see more realistic installations going in. But I think that's I think, though, this is, again, that thing, there is only a limited amount of companies that are available to the customers at the moment. The one-man bands are there, and they don't want to get involved because it is that heat loss calculation for them to go and do the survey. There are companies that are doing that at a cost. But the sort of the one-man bands are looking at going, do I want to do that? Do I want to go along and do that heat loss calculation, do that system design? I have to take the combi out of what used to be the airing cupboards, now the cupboard in the kids' bedroom, to put a 250 litre cylinder back in there. Yeah.
And there's the customers that want that, and there's the customers that don't want that, people,
Yeah, we're not saying this for everybody, but I think that's the point, isn't it? We're saying it, although the word is now heat pumps can work in anywhere, we know it's not suitable for every property. At present.
Yeah. And this is, I think, where people need to be realistic. You don't just go there and sell the customer a heat pump and say, this will work. Make sure that you're doing your design and you're doing everything correctly, because if you're sitting there and you're selling it and saying it ain't going to work, or this is going to work, we're going to throw it in, you do this and that, and this will work.
So it's a balance, isn't it? That where Panorama took it, they made out that they were ridiculously expensive. Your whole house needs ripping apart and all that kind of stuff. That was the extent of this side.
Yeah.
Then the flip side,
scaremongering, isn't it? It's scaremongering.
That's scare. And then the other side to it, we've got this situation where we're saying, as experts in this industry, this is not suitable for everybody because cost and the practical aspects of it. Can it work? Yes, but from a cost and practical aspect, it probably isn't suitable for everybody. Yeah. And then you've got this situation in the middle where we're saying there is plenty, and I mean plenty, of properties and customers where the property is suitable. Mm-hmm. The installation will not cost anywhere near £18,000 to install. No. You're talking closer to probably 6 to 8 in comparison to a boiler installation, which will probably be of a similar ilk.
Yeah.
And then finally, you've got this point around homes needing have to be insulated before you can even consider a heat pump. You can put them into the same home where the boiler was before, and there will be benefits from improving the insulation. No different to if you improve the insulation with a boiler.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And not only that, like you say, you read these and you can't fit this with microbore. You can't fit a heat pump on microbore system. I've got a microbore, so I can't have one. And you can't fit a heat pump because I haven't got double glazing. And you can't fit a heat pump because my house is insulated.
I tell you, this is maybe the one we'll do in the future. I think we could invite Panorama around to any of our installations and show them how a good quality installation that is an affordable installation. Yeah. But we'll get a film crew and we'll come and do our own. I don't think we'll get as many viewers.
Same.
We'll come and do our own. But so thank you very much, Glenn. Really appreciate it. Join us for the next episode where Glenn's going to be talking us through the customer's journey to an installation. So everything you need to consider when you're having a heat pump fitted, and the journey that Glenn and his team take the customers on. So thank you very much for watching.